Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we've had some discussions this year, this session, about fundamental rights. And I rise to speak about one of the fundamental rights that form this Commonwealth, and that is the right of people to peaceably petition their government and to peaceably assemble. And this right was included in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, and then, of course, was included in the United States Bill of Rights. And as part of our First Amendment, it's one of the most fundamental rights that we hold dear. I joined this legislature 10 years ago, and over the past several years, I've seen demonstrations and protests of every kind. I've seen some people come armed with placards, some people come armed with firearms. I've seen some people wear medical coats. And I can tell you strictly on my own behalf, I've always been flattered to see people come and visit us at the state capitol. In fact, considering the low rate of voter participation in some of our legislative races, I'm surprised that people even know we're down here. And I've tried to make it a point to converse and speak to everybody that comes to visit me, whether or not they share my opinions. I say this as a preface to telling you that, quite frankly, I've been shocked and amazed at some of the reactions that we've had to protests in this state capitol over the past few weeks. Let me just point out a couple. Last Monday, February 27th, we had a group of women that came to protest some of the legislation that has passed this body. And I won't speak to the merits of that legislation, but I will speak to the merits of how I believe they were treated when they came onto these Capitol grounds. And they stood in front of the governor's mansion, which is public property, and they registered their disappointment with some of those votes. And they were surrounded by people with weapons. They were surrounded by people wearing flak jackets. There was an armored car nearby. In my opinion, it was a complete over-the-top response to what was a civil protest. Then on Saturday, we had another gathering at the state capitol on our state grounds. And again, there was about 1,000 people, again, mostly women. And again, they were surrounded by police, state police in riot gear, carrying glass shields and wearing equipment that was more appropriate, frankly, for a bar fight than a civil protest. Men of Virginia, do we want our wives, our grandmothers, our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our nieces treated this way? Will we accept this in our own household? I know I wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. This is a public place. People come here to protest for us or against us. Speaking to the gentlemen in this body, we as men take exception when we see our women folk treated this way. It's not right. It's not right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a place for civil protest. They protest me sometimes, sometimes they protest you. But this is also the land of the free. And I take exception to the reaction of our authorities against people that are exercising their right to free expression. I stand up today again, not as a state senator, but simply as a son of a Virginian, as the husband of a Virginian, as the father of a Virginian. It's not right. And again, I speak as one half of the gender. But as a man, I don't think it's right, and I want to state that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
President, I also stand on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Since the very first day of this session, things have been going seriously awry in the General Assembly. On January 10th, Virginia had a well-deserved reputation as a moderate, pro-business, civil, and peaceful state. In the past 8.5 weeks, that reputation has changed. Virginia became a national laughingstock, a joke, because of anti-woman legislation passing through the General Assembly. It got so bad that the business leaders complained about the damage being done to our state's reputation and competitiveness. But now we're at a new, even more disturbing stage. Our state capitol is becoming an armed garrison. Peaceful demonstrators are being intimidated and arrested. 8 days ago, peaceful demonstrators who wanted to take back the night were confronted with SWAT teams, armed law enforcement on roofs, and officers in riot gear. Take Back the Night demonstrations have been going on for years, usually on college campuses. The demonstrators, mostly women, carry lighted flashlights. Here on the Capitol grounds, confronted by obviously heavily armed police, the protesters were told they could not light their flashlights. What is so subversive about a flashlight? This past Saturday, 850 demonstrators came on the Capitol grounds. They were chanting, "Tell me what democracy looks like." This is what democracy looks like. And they were what democracy looks like. Peaceful demonstrators going to the seat of government to express their views. In this case, they were marching and chanting for women's rights. And what did they face? SWAT teams, state police in full riot gear, police armed with semi-automatic guns, and dogs. Not since the massive resistant days of the 1960s have I had seen such a disgraceful display of excessive police presence. When I described what was going on here in Richmond to my son back in Reston and showed him videos, he said we need a symbol to express outrage. I thought back 8 days to when the women armed only with flashlights were confronted with SWAT teams and armed police. They only had their flashlights, which they were told to extinguish. Well, now a flashlight is my symbol of peaceful protesters standing up to excessive force. And my flashlight will stay on my desk next to my beloved Virginia flag until reason and balance return to this General Assembly and Capitol.